What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. Season of Discovery has been out for over a week now, and we've seen 4 lockout resets for the BFD raid. Because of this, I've decided to analyze a bunch of logs and go through every single class and tell you guys what I think and let you guys know what the best gear is that you should be going for, as well as the talents and runes that you should be using. And today we're going to be talking about the Rogue. So without further ado, guys, let's dive in. So when we look at our talents for rogues, the first thing we're going to notice here is that we're in the assassination tree. We're going to start out by putting 5 points into malice to get that extra 5% chance to crit, 3 points into ruthlessness, which will give your finishing moves a 60% chance to add an extra combo point to your target, 2 points into murder, which will basically give you a 2% damage buff against all humanoid, giant, beast, and dragonkin enemies, 3 points into improved slice and dice, which will increase the duration of slice and dice by 45%, helping you keep it up more often without having to waste globals refreshing it as often. And then we have 1 point in relentless strikes, where your finishing moves have a 20% chance per combo point to restore 25 energy. Now after this, you have 2 points left over, and you're going to be throwing those into the improved Sinister Strike talent in the combat tree. This is going to reduce the energy cost of Sinister Strike and Saber Slash by 5, which is really important, because heading on down to our runes, for our chest rune, we're going to be running Deadly Brew. And what Deadly Brew basically does is, if you have instant poison applied to your weapon, let's say your offhand weapon, because you're most likely leaving your main hand weapon open for Wind Fury, what it will do is when instant poison is triggered, it will also apply a stack of deadly poison on the target, which is super important, because moving on to our leg rune, we're going to be using Envenom, which is a finishing move that deals instant poison damage based on your deadly poison doses on the target. Following the Envenom attack, you also have a 75% increased frequency of applying instant poison, and as you know, pair that with the Deadly Brew talent, so we're stacking deadly poison 75% quicker as well. Basically, this is going to be your finishing move, your new Eviscerate, when you're running this spec. And then on our hands, we're going to be using Saber Slash, which is going to completely replace Sinister Strike. Now, what does Saber Slash do? It viciously slashes at the enemy for 130% weapon damage and causes the target to bleed damage for every 2 seconds for 12 seconds, and this stacks up to 3 times. So it's basically a Sinister Strike that is applying a stacking bleed on the target. So this would be your absolute best in-slot build for the most DPS possible on Rogue in Phase 1. And I know this because I decided to also analyze some logs, and Agenin here is the top Rogue right now, and if we look at what he's doing, it is all of this. Most of his damage is coming from his melees, obviously, which that is normal. His second in line is Saber Slash, Deadly Poison is third in line, and Envenom is fourth in line, with instant poison following that up. It looks like most of his combo point spenders are going to be used on Envenom. We have a couple of Ruptures and Eviscerates here. These might just be instances where he just had to get something off quick. Maybe there was no deadly poisons left on the target. But yeah, it's so minimal. It's under 1% here. So as we can see, he's basically keeping up Slice and Dice, which we can see here, and then dumping with Envenom. The only time he's casting Slice and Dice is going to be when it's falling off, right? So your rotation honestly looks something like opening up, Saber Slashing, getting Slice and Dice up, building combo points with Saber Slash yet again, and then dumping those with Envenom. It doesn't look any crazier than that. It's pretty simple, and he's doing a lot of DPS. If we go back to the raid here, this is for all encounters in BFD overall. He was the top damage in the raid with 102k damage, which is pretty significant compared to the second in line, which was Tree Ranger, the Hunter, that did 93k damage. As you can see here, though, half of that damage is his Scorpion Pet, which is still insane to see. But yeah, so I want to start backing up these videos with log analysis, which is what I've been doing a lot of. When I make these videos, a lot of you have a lot of questions, and you're like, oh, why this, why that? And I feel like it's a lot easier if I I show you guys the actual logs where I'm getting this information from. I do research all of these classes and figure out exactly what they're doing. So yeah, Agenin is the top rogue right now, and this is exactly what's being done. That is all the damage that he's doing. Most of the damage is coming from his just white hits, Saber Slash, Deadly Poison, and Envenom, with Instant Poison being right up there with Envenom, because obviously you're putting Instant Poison on your offhand to trigger those Deadly Brew procs to get Deadly Poison on your target to then use Envenom. And you're only going to be casting Slice and Dice when it's about to fall off. So now that we know the build and the damage and where the damage comes from, let's take a look at some of the best in slot gear. So starting with our headpiece, let's scroll down a little bit. We have our best in slot is the Twilight Slayer's Cowl, which is your tier piece in this bracket in phase 1. And this has a chance to drop off Akumai, Gelihast, Lorgus Jet. So you can probably get this pretty easily, but if it's taking you a while and you do see an Artemis Cowl drop off Lady Cerevis, this would be your second in line. And if you're Horde, go farm your Humbert's Helm. If you're Alliance, you may be able to pick this up on the neutral auction house, but I feel like it might be pretty pricey. So moving to shoulders, we have the Mantle of Thieves. Obviously, this is a BOE blue drop that drops in Razorfen Crawl. I have seen a few of them so far, but they are extremely expensive. So if you can't get your hands on this and you can't farm it, a good second piece would be the Sentinel's Pauldrons off of Akumai. They give you 8 agility, 10 stamina, very close in line to Mantle of Thieves. And then the Bristlebark Amis would be third in line. This is another world drop, but I think it has less than a 1% chance to drop, but it does drop off mobs in Ashenvale. So if you're doing stuff up there and you want to try and farm this, you can go right ahead and try that. But yeah, this would be the third in line shoulder piece here. And then before you get into the raid, you can always pick up Robust Shoulders of Agility if they have the Agility enchant on them, or Dark Leather Shoulders before you head on to trying to get one of these two pieces. Now, moving on to the back piece, there is no better option than the Sergeant's Cloak. It's actually so easy to get rank 3 right now. So yeah, picking up the Sergeant's Cloak, they completely reworked it. It basically gives you 4 of every single talent. So this would be your best in-slot cloak, and I suggest you go try and farm this. If you can't get that, try picking up a Cutthroat's Cape of the Tiger. That's going to give you 4 agility and 4 strength. It's a world drop. And for Alliance, farming Cape of the Brotherhood might be a good option to get yourself into the raid, but I still do think Sergeant's Cloak is a little bit better because you're getting that strength and agility, even though it's 2 less agility. You also have the option of Waterproof Scarf off Lady Cerevis in the raid. And then if you're Horde, farming Glowing Lizard Scale Cloak off of Scum in Wailing Caverns is not bad either. It's basically the same thing as Cape of the Brotherhood. You're going to get 6 agility right there. As for your chest piece, again, the tier chest piece, the Twilight Slayer's Tunic, this is humongous. It drops off of Akumai, Gelihast, and Lorgus Jet, so you should have a good chance at getting this. For Alliance, I would suggest getting the Tunic of Westfall from the Defias Brotherhood quest line. All you have to do is go kill Van Cleef. And if you can't get that, the Dervish Tunic of Power, which will give you 22 attack power. If you can find this on the auction house, that would be huge as well. As for our wrist slots, we have the Cutthroat's Arm Guards of Power. These will give you 12 attack power. They're a world drop. If you can pick these up on the auction house, these are your best in-slot bracers for this phase. But close second would be the Jurassic Wrist Guards or the Pathfinder Bracers of Power, which would give you 10 attack power. And then really last in line here, honestly, would be the Bindings of Sericus. They have strength and stamina on them. Not the best piece here, but if you have no other options and they drop and no one else in your group needs them, like the Warriors or the Ret Pallies, I would suggest taking the Bindings of Sericus. For your hand slot, you guys probably already know the Void Touch Leather Gloves are the absolute best hand slot item you can get in this phase. 6 agility, 6 stamina, 4 spirit. You get 1% chance to hit on them and a nice on use that increases your attack speed by 10%, as well as increasing your threat by 10%. But that 10% attack speed bonus is really nice and is really going to improve your DPS. If you can't get your hands on these yet, or you're not a leather worker, you can pick up the Heavy Earthen Gloves, which give you 16 attack power. That's another leatherworking item. They might be on the auction house, but you don't need to be a leather worker to just equip them. And then some other good options would be the Pathfinder Gloves of the Tiger for 6 strength, 6 agility, or the Wolf Claw Gloves, but these will be pretty pricey because they're a BOE blue from Razorfen Crawl, but they give you 5 strength, 6 agility, but I honestly would try and get the Pathfinder Gloves or the Heavy Earthen Gloves if you can't get the Void Touch Leather Gloves. Moving down to our waist slot, we have the Deftkin belt. This is a horde-only belt. It's a quest Genju of the Earthen Ring. This is going to give you 4 agility, 3 stamina, and 12 attack power. Now, if you're Alliance, you can go with the scaled leather belt of the Tiger, which is just a world drop, so it might be a little bit easier to pick this up than trying to do anything else, because this is honestly most likely on the auction house on your server right now for under a few gold, and this would be your best in-slot belt for this phase. Now for our legs, obviously the best would be Trollbane's leggings if you can pick these up. Not sure, I haven't even seen a pair of these yet on my server, but the second option is also equally as strong, which would be the Dervish leggings of power, which they would give you 22 attack power, which is humongous here. And for Alliance and Horde, I would suggest farming the leggings of the Fang if you can't get your hands on those other 2 legs. These simply would be the best legs you can get if you can't get your hands on the Trollbane legs or the Dervish leggings. And these drop off Lord Cobra, and they have a 17.93% chance to drop, so they're not super rare. I actually got lucky and got these on my Warrior on my first run, as well as Cobran's Grasp and a bunch of other stuff. I had like a crazy lucky run, so I would suggest trying to get these legs. They're going to improve your DPS by a lot. As for your foot slot for the Rogue, we have the Twilight Slayer's foot pads, which drop off Lorgus Jet and Galihast in there. It's another piece of your tier set. You're going to be using your entire tier set on Rogue, simply because that 2-piece bonus, the 12 attack power, and the 3-piece bonus of having 1% extra hit is just too big to pass up. So you're going to want to get these for your best in slot feat item. And then another follow-up here would be the Pathfinder foot pads of power for 16 attack power. These are a world drop. You might be able to find them on your auction house. Or the feet of the Lynx. These are another really good item for your foot slot. However, they're going to be pretty expensive, so I wouldn't suggest doing that. I would suggest going for the Pathfinder foot pads or doing your Warsong supplies quest for the Warsong boots, which give you 8 agility, 6 stamina. For our next slot item on the Rogue, we have the High Tide Choker. This drops off the first boss in BFD, Baron Aquinas. This is an amazing neck. 7 strength, 4 agility, has an 18.28% chance to drop, so you will eventually get your hands on this. If you're having bad luck, though, you could always pick up the Spectral Necklace of the Tiger for 4 agility, 4 strength on there, or farm to Honored with your Warsong rep, whether you're Horde or Alliance, it's still there. You're going to be able to get the Scout's Medallion or the Sentinel's Medallion for 6 agility and 2 stamina. Now for our rings, obviously our best in-slot ring is the Thunderbrow ring with 8 strength, 3 agility on it. However, this is going to be pretty hard to get. It's going to be extremely expensive if you do find it. So if you're Horde, your best option is to go with Band of the Iron Fist, which is from a quest on the Zoram Strand called Allegiance to the Old Gods. I think this starts by you loot a damp note from the mobs outside of BFD. I think the elites there drop a damp note. It has you talk to someone on the Zoram Strand, and then you get the quest Allegiance to the Old Gods, which will have you, I think, kill a boss inside BFD. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And for Alliance, your best in slot ring is going to be the Protector's Band, 4 strength, 4 agility, 2 stamina, which will, you'll have to just get honored with Silverwing Sentinels. And then again, there's a Horde version of that as well, just getting honored with Warsong Outriders, extremely useful. So technically, if you're Horde, your best rings are going to be Band of the Iron Fist and Legionnaire's Band. And if you're Alliance, your best rings are going to be Protector's Band and Savannah Ring of the Tiger for 4 agility and 4 strength. As for your trinkets, obviously the Avenger's Pearl, the new trinkets they added at the end of BFD. When you slay Akumai, you loot a giant pearl. It's basically like the Onyxia head, and you go hand it in Darnassus. It drops the world buff, and you get to select a trinket. This is going to be the trinket that you select if you do win that giant pearl. It's going to give you 18 attack power and 10 shadow resist, which might help out a little bit on the Kelris fight. And then for your second in line trinket, we have the Rune of Duty, which is just from being friendly with Warsong Outriders or Silverwing Sentinels. It's going to give you 4 stamina and 3 health per 5 seconds. And then obviously next in line would be the insignia of the Horde or the Alliance. Now, as for your weapons, there is no better main hand weapon for Rogue than the Honed Darkwater Talwar, which drops off Lady Cerevis, basically an 18% chance to drop here, and it has a chance on hit to send a Shadow Bolt at the enemy, causing 30 shadow damage. This is a nice 2.7 speed sword for your main hand. There is nothing better than this, but there are a few other options, like Cruel Barb would be pretty easy to farm. Shadow Fang might not be too expensive on the auction house. It depends on your server. Stinging Viper would be another nice main hand. It says one hand, but it's a really good main hand as well because it's nice and slow. 2.8 speed on that with the poison damage. But any of these BOEs would do the trick. And you can also farm Revered with Warsong Outriders or Silverwing Sentinels and pick up your Protector's Sword or your Legionnaire's Sword for your main hand here. But let's move on to the offhand. So for your offhand, the Vampiric Boot Knife which has a chance on hit to leech life from your victim, healing for 10 damage. That's not that big there, but the thing here is that it's so fast. It's a 1.3 speed dagger with 21.15 DPS on it. It drops off Akumai, but it has less than a 10% chance to drop, so getting this might prove to be a little bit hard. You also have the Black Fathom Ritual Dagger, which is technically a caster dagger, but it has a nice 1.2 speed on it and 19.58 DPS. This will be your second in line best offhand weapon. And then you could also go for the Cross Dagger of Power for 10 attack power, the Honed Stiletto for 10 attack power. These are world drops, so you may be able to just pick these up off the auction house. And then obviously after that, we have the Outlaw Saber from the Horde quest, or you can get Revered with War Song to get your Scout's Blade or your Sentinel's Blade. These would be the last in line, but I would honestly, if you haven't stepped foot in the raid yet or you haven't seen these drop yet, I would opt for going for the Cross Dagger of Power or the Honed Stiletto of Power. Now, obviously, as for our range slot, we have the Baal Modan Blunderbuss that drops off Akumai. It has 6 agility on this gun. This is going to be clearly your best in-slot ranged weapon. However, your hunters are going to want this probably before you, but it has a 16.6% chance to drop, so it's not extremely rare, but it might take you a while to pick this up. The Naga Heartrender is a close second that drops off Lady Cerevis with 5 strength on it. This would definitely help. And then obviously we have our trusty Ranger Bow. This might be a little bit pricey, but if you could pick it up really cheap, having that 1 agility may improve your DPS a tiny bit, but it would be so minimal that I wouldn't spend more than like 10 gold on this bow. And that's really it, guys. That is what you would be going for on your rogue. Those are the talents, those are the runes, and those are some gearing options for you. So if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. It really does help me out a lot, and subscribe to the channel. Turn on post notifications so you don't miss the next time I post a video. And if you want to hang out with me live, I do stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/hammerdance Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll drop a link to that in the description below this video. And if you want to join an awesome Discord community, we have grown at such a rapid rate. The community is massive. I'll drop the Discord link in the description down below as well. It's just filled with a bunch of like-minded people who all enjoy geeking out over Classic WoW and Season of Discovery. So if that sounds like something that you are interested in, we will welcome you with open arms. But anyways, guys, that's all I've got for you today. Thank you all so much for watching and listening in. I'll see you all in the next one.